Special, very special guest with us on our shop. I met Paul because he's the kind of the main technical liaison between the United States distributorship and improvements, and is responsible in large part for why these Highland pianos are such excellent instruments. So Paul's been everything in this industry, from bookkeeper to CEO to factory technician, and I'm missing
piano store owner, mover, worked in the factories,
refinisher,
refinishing,
done it all.
Polyester repair.
And you're currently operating your own shop is it Orange County?
Yes. I have a shop in Orange County, and I also am in charge of product development and quality control. So I set up all the protocols for maintaining the quality of the pianos from the time the wood comes in the back door and the piano goes in the box. We call that birth to box.
Birth to box. So I've talked a lot about, I'll get a customer in that'll say something, anything good come out of China, and then if they have a little bit of familiarity with manufacturing in China, they'll say like, yeah, okay, so maybe it's designed by these Western guys, but the Chinese are not going to stick to that. Like people that have industry or experience in other industries, they'll make a statement like that. I'm like, well, actually, you're right, that addressed it, and Paul's the guy that ensures that they maintain that high standard of quality that the European kind of brain trust that has designed these pianos, that remains true through actual physical realization of the product. Am I stating this?
You're stating it perfectly.
Okay.
And we're not the only people that have to do this. People who are having precision equipment made in China have boots on the ground there supervising each step along the way. Chinese tend to have heroes on the line who think that, well, this is cheaper, we should be able to use this instead, and later on you discover that what cheaper was not cheaper, because now you have to replace them all. So most of the companies, ourselves included, have boots on the ground at the factory from morning till sundown, from birth to box, to ensure that the right parts go in the piano and that nobody takes any shortcuts. And if there is a problem, our people have the power to stop the entire line until that can be addressed.
And that power has been granted by Mr. Chen?
By the owner of the piano company, yes, Mr. Chen himself.
Okay, so he believes in it because he believes that that's the route to riches.
Be the leader in the industry.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a vision of being the best entry-level piano. He wants to be the best piano, period.
Oh, does he? Okay.
So, I mean, he's got a way to go for that, but
sure,
he's on the way.
Cool. Okay, well, there's an introduction to Paul Ray. I mean, that's a brief, very quick introduction. I thought that what we talk about is voicing. So voicing, there's a few pianos that I am not crazy about the voicing, and I'd like to get Paul to have a look. So we'll just kind of have some fun with the voicing, and depending on how much time it takes.
Let's cover a couple of things of basics. I'm gonna put my coffee here in a safe place. When you're voicing a hammer, there's a lot of things that you want to look for. A hammer is shaped similar to this. The hammer is driven towards the string and released before it gets to the string, hits the string, flexes. Too much flex, it's mushy sounding, and you don't get that crisp full rounded tone. If the hammer doesn't flex enough, then it's a distorted sound enough. So it's actually hitting the string and killing it at the same time. So you need that perfect balance between flex and release, hardness and softness. The rule of the past is you harden the shoulders massively to get more power. Yeah, I don't think that works that way really well, because the shoulders need to actually move some also to get to the release onto the strings. So there's a couple ways that we can voice that and unvoice it. I don't like doing anything to a piano in any of its aspects, but especially in voicing, that I cannot undo. Okay? Because there's going to be a day when you're voicing a hammer and you go like, I hate that. And you're going to have to figure it out. So that's some of the basics of what we're looking for.
Okay. Well, I thought we'd start with our test subject is the C7. So the C7 is very bright. It's got obviously great potential. Pretty awesome projection and bass and sustain. Nice tone, but
for all coming out of the box sounding the same. In order to do that, you have to sacrifice some of the piano's innate character to make them all the same. So some pianos really sound like they're just pinned up, they're just waiting to be released. But they can't be because they need to sound just like their neighbor. They can be an awesome piano if you release times that you can't get it totally released.
Okay.
And a lot of people are going to cringe at this point. We do what we call, where we Germanize, we remove the Yamaha hammers, and we put on Audible Naturals, which are a little more voiceable, a little more technician friendly. Yamaha hammers tend to be very, very hard. They are hard. Kind of doubt that we'll need it on this, but we'll see. I usually try to find somebody I really don't like. Very nice. So what is the first step of voicing? Anybody?
Make peace with your God.
No. The first step of tuning is, voicing again. Wait, voicing is tuning. just releasing the shoulder just a little bit like that, and a couple of needles across the crown. That's now a civilized sound with nice sustain. East a little bit bright, but we're in the neighborhood. And this is really being pretty subtle. There are ways to go through this and do a global type of voicing, which I tend to do on pianos that are too bright.
Could you talk about that on this one? Because I think it needs it. I think it needs a global.
Well, right now I'm trying to figure out what exactly it needs. And you have to do that before you try anything globally.
By that you mean what these particular hammers will respond to?
Right. What do they like?
Mm-hmm.
So, from what I've learned here, just on these few hammers, is most of the problem is right up here in the crown. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up with the block. I'm going to totally ignore the bass notes for right now in the wound strings. And so I'm going to take on each hammer and I'm going to go in at 11 and 1 and just give it one reasonably, what'd you do with it, dummy? That kind of depth at 11 and 1, just one stitch. Go across it globally, and then we'll see if that's enough. And if not, we'll come back, we'll do another one. And we'll also do a couple of just right down into the crown and break that felt up just a little bit to give it a little bit mellower sound.
Now, Paul, for the sake of argument, so what, how would the hammer react differently what would it tell you you would have to do? So I guess it's two questions, but you tried something and it seemed to work, and so I would like to know how it would react differently to the 2 stitches at 2 and 11 or 1 and 11.
It could have reacted with doing absolutely nothing. You put the stitches in there and it sounds exactly the same.
Okay.
That usually means that down the shoulders a ways, somebody's drowned it.
Okay.
And so you're going to have a long day trying to quiet this piano down. This one is a little more forgiving, which is rather nice to have, especially in the Yamaha. So, well, let's just say that I did this and suddenly those notes are too soft. Never do anything to a hammer you cannot undo. So to undo this, just a light shape over the top of the crown and followed by the snowboard iron, and just iron it back in. You'll be right back where you were before. So there's ways of going the other direction.
Yeah.
When I get home, I have a Steinway L that somebody voiced into oblivion, where it sounds more like a
marshmallow?
Yeah, that's it's more like a marshmallow, and so I need to bring this thing back to life, because new Steinway hammers nowadays are $782 for
Yeah.
a set.
Right. I'm aware.
Ouch. So I've had this happen on a Petroff one time. They flew me out to Dallas for the I don't know if any of you guys know Hillary Roberts. She's been on Billboard now for the last few months in the top 10. She and the director of the Met went out and they looked for pianos and they bought this Petroff. They brought it home. The dealer sent out a technician and he decided he didn't like it and voiced it. She was in tears. Took me 3 days to bring that piano back to life.
Very aggressive.
And that required juicing, ironing, softening the shoulders and brightening back at the attack points. So, I mean, you can take a hammer from being a long ways too soft to bringing it up to where it's actually civilized. And it's playing, it's more the way it was designed. So, this Steinway, I'm going to have to do that with. I'm going to have to bring it back to life the way the Steinway is. Now, the nice thing about Steinway is, I mean, you can just drown the thing in lacquer and it's going to like it. So, generally speaking, when I apply lacquer, I do it with a scrap hammer. And I gave this,
Roll it over.
roll it over the top, listen to it and see how I like it. And you can continue doing that because it will continue going through that first layer of lacquer and going deeper and deeper and deeper until you get it where you want. I like to sneak up on it. So rather than trying to go backwards with deep lacquering,
Deep shoulder.
yeah, deep shoulder lacquering, you can get it out, but it's not any fun.
Yeah.
So, let's take this global.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
If you folks out there don't have one of these, make one. This material can be purchased at Woodcraft, and you can make these on a table saw or router. They're pretty easy to make. And so long as the people who cut the hammers to length did their job properly, they should be all nice and flat here. And yes, I've run across that where they look like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then things get a little more interesting.
So your needles are pretty shallow there.
Pretty shallow. I don't want to overkill here. So I'm going to do just one section at a time. A lot of times different sections respond differently. Wow, lighting's great.
You look up snowboard iron on your phone.
I have one out in the motorhome. I'll bring one in.
Yeah, somebody gets that. Oh, now the truth comes out, Paul. You have one.
I do. But I have to dig it out.
Holding back on us.
I generally carry a pretty significant amount of tools with me. I was up at Glacier National Park and ended up working on a Baldwin there. In the park at the Lake McDonald.
How'd that happen? You just couldn't stay away, could you?
Nope. I heard it and I went, oh my.
You're supposed to be on vacation with your wife, Paul.
Yeah, but I get to write some of it off because I worked.
Is that it?
So a waxing iron.
Is it?
Is that what you're...
Yep.
The one in the middle?
Either one. And if do they show you pictures on the bottom of it?
I don't know.
That's it.
Nope.
Okay. Well, the object of that is the bottom of it's not going to have any holes in it.
Oh, okay. You don't like
to iron
holes,
out
huh?
the needle punctures of the needle, or
No, that's the brightener to kind of.
Well, if it looks good, it sounds good.
Yeah.
So after I've shaped the hammers, having no intention of brightening them at all, I'll iron them just for cosmetics
yeah.
Uh-huh.
because they look pretty. So it's multi-purpose.
So you've done your 11 and 1. Now you're doing your crown 2
Yep.
stitches.
Hey, Julio. Good morning.
¿Qué pasa? ¿Está bien las alergias? ¿Mejor? Bueno. Qué bueno. Sí, es horrible. ¿Sí? Sí. Tengo más. Tengo más pastillas.
Ah, sí, necesito, yo te digo. ¿Tú dónde andabas?
¿Qué?
Todos lados. Ok. Pues vamos a darle.
¿Está listo, Wing?
Ya.
¿Sí?
Si quieres checarlo, algún otro detalle, pero listo.
Now everybody see the black marks here on the tops of the hammers?
Yeah.
The grooves? Any guess what that is?
Probably graphite.
Well, you see it a lot on a lot of different pianos. And what you'll discover is the piano has Roslau wire in it.
Oh.
Really?
And eventually, depending upon which Roslau they used, the grooves will turn black.
Interesting.
Is it just a different kind of steel?
Yep. And it's tinned. Inside.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
So tinning will come off of the string and get into the grooves of the hammer. Now when that happens, that black stuff we are looking at right there is metal.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have customers like this, carry along one of those little steel, not brass, but steel toothbrushes with you,
Yeah.
Just brush it out.
and just brush that out about every other tuning. Your customer will love you. It'll take you all of about a minute and a half,
Yeah.
and they will be so tickled pink with you, it won't be funny.
I've used that to kind of illustrate when people don't even have a concept of voicing,
Right, yep.
because it doesn't take long. You're right.
Now, at NAMM show 2 years ago, we had a Sauter Omega, and the dealer who had it decided that he would like to brighten it up and make a European sounding piano, not sound like European anymore. Problem was, is that evening I had one of the most awarded Chopin artists going to play that piano. You can get really aggressive with this if you have to. If you have to get really aggressive and knock a piano down very, very quickly, lengthen out those needles, and just below the crown of the hammer, go all the way through, about twice.
How far below the strike point?
Half to a full millimeter.
Just barely.
Yeah, just barely. And what you're going to do there is it's going to create a little cushion.
Air pocket?
Right. So you're not going to lose the power if he needs the power, but it gives him the pianissimos and the broader range, dynamic range that a Chopin artist is going to need.
Yeah.
And I did the last round of voicing about 2 minutes before he started playing.
That's stressful.
I tried everything, you know, all the normal things, and I went, oh, okay, so the show, he loved it. So
I missed the payoff. I was talking to Julio.
I didn't get to hear it.
I didn't get to hear it.
this piano has been very cooperative.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, how unusual.
Should've given you a hard
Now, you can play it softly, but the bark's still there too.
Yeah, sure.
So you have the full dynamic range. I'm a horrible pianist, by the way. I only play just well enough to know what it feels like, sounds like, and to embarrass myself. So,
So what are some, I think you've already gotten into it, but what are some mistakes that beginning voicers mistakes to avoid, pitfalls that you've seen?
can you say,
Should we say common mistakes
lacquer?
or like worst case scenario?
Yeah, well, both.
well, let's,
Okay.
let's just talk about the novice, okay?
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of novices out there that they have not had any training whatsoever. And they've always heard that if you lacquer the hammers, it helps.
Yeah.
So piano doesn't sound the way they want, so they lacquer the hammers. Of course, it needed needling, not lacquering, but you know, lacquer's how you fix it. That's mistake number one. Going too far is the next prominent mistake, where you put too much lacquer, you would do too much needling. Voicing is something you have to be patient on. You're not going to be able to do it quickly unless you're in a panic mode just before a concert. But I already knew what I had to do. So that, I was done sneaking. And I was going to make an end run. Some of the other pitfalls, voicing is the first step in voicing is make sure that these grooves aren't very deep and you don't have a big flat spot on the top of the hammer.
So
Because
it
if
needs
you
to be the
do,
right shape.
yeah, it needs to be the right shape because otherwise you're going to be fighting a lot of other things. Is the hammer voiceable? I mean, like if this was worn down, where we've seen a lot of pianos where they're worn down into this felt, is this voiceable? Sure it is with a new set of hammers. So those are some of the things you get. Is the piano worthy of voicing? Meaning, is there so many other problems with the piano that you could voice it until you're blue in the face and it's not going to sound any better? Like you can voice a Kimball spin it until you're blue in the face and you're not going to gain anything. It's not going to sound like a Petrov. It's not going to sound like a C7 or a Halo 178. It's just not going to have that kind of tone because it's not built that way. But one thing I do want to cover, pianos in the length of 210 to 218. These are problem children. Right there. Every single one of them. There is a voicing problem
So
right
210 to
there.
218, that's
Yep.
6'10" to 7'2".
Yep. And the problem is in the scale designs, and I haven't heard anybody's piano that doesn't have a problem there unless they've already fixed it. And you and I fixed one where we did the voicing with my hammer roller method. And so to fix a 218, 210, 218 with a dead section, it's just dead. There's no sustain, it goes clunk. It's at the right pitch. The power sounds right, the dynamic sounds right, but it's just dead. So, you got a scrap hammer?
Do we have scrap hammers?
One or two.
So,
I think only a couple thousand.
So on those pianos, what I would generally do is I would do some shoulder voicing, some rather deep shoulder voicing at around the 10 and 2 to give me a little bit more flex. And then I would make sure that the shaping was right after I did that, to make sure I didn't dish this at all. Make sure that's nice and flat. And then, as soon as he gets back with a hammer, I'll show you. When you do that, the reason we're going to do what we're going to do next is there's two parts to what this hammer does. There is the flex that it has in it, but then also the other component is called attack. That's what happens the second it hits that string, how strong it is, how pingy it is, or how soft it is. So sometimes when you're doing shoulder needling, you lose some of the attack. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put the attack back in it.
But you need some lacquer?
I'm not going to do it on this piano. We're already fighting the problem the other direction. So you take your lacquer. Did you get the B57 stuff from Dale? I'll take that as no. I've got some on the car.
Of course you do.
So you mix the B57 voicing crystals down about 4 grams to 6 ounces of acetone, which is pretty thin. And so you mix one vessel with that, and then another vessel where it would be 2 grams to 4 ounces of acetone. Any one of
We
them.
have new ones too, if you'd like.
Doesn't matter.
Those are all scrap.
So you have two different consistencies. The thicker one is what you would dip this hammer into and then roll on the shoulders. I'm dealing with a Steinway. This is what I'm doing. And then with the thinner material, which was what you would do with a 210 or 218, where it's ultra thin, is dip it in your material and just roll right over the top. Now, that's going to put on a layer about 1/4 of a millimeter thick on the crown of the hammer. So when it dries, it's easily voiced to blend it together, but it gives you that attack back. So if it's dead, to get more sustain, you release the shoulders. When you do that, you lose some of the attack, you bring that back in over the crown. That's how you brighten up and bring back to life the alto break in a 210 or 218 piano. I don't suppose we have one here, do we?
We have a 218.
Let's see if
We
it's-
also have an A, a Steinway A, that I've never been terribly happy with that area. I really like the midsection on the A, but yeah, an
At the
octave
break.
up, 2 octaves up. I've never been super happy with it.
Okay.
So I'd
So
like your
it's-
thoughts on that
So
one.
is everybody with me on how to do this globally?
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody's gonna have to do these next two sections here.
Okay, we'll leave them open.
Let's hit this here.
So we have the 218 there to your left and the A on your right.
Now these guys should be okay. That's okay. This is going through that with the factory.
What's that? Did you do that one at the factory?
We don't, I have my guys trained for these.
Yeah.
Mr. Hung now does the.
He does the
final
voicing?
Voicing on the upper end.
Okay.
And he is a very accomplished voicer.
Hmm.
And he understands how to get that. So it's not bad if you really thump on it, but if you play it.
I hear a vibration.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, there's all vibrations that may not be on the piano at all.
Sure.
I think the most fun one I ever had was I went up into the Sierras. Kauai sent me up there. This lady was complaining about this, was it UFT7? And horrible vibration noise. And so, you know, way out into the Sierras. And I get there in this beautiful new home. It's got this alcove built around the piano, I said, okay, we'll make it buzz. And she says, well, it has to warm up. Warm up? Okay. So I stand back and she's playing and playing and playing, and sure enough, pretty soon there's this horrible vibration. And I reach up and touch the fluorescent bulb above it. And she turns about the color of this red felt.
Yeah.
She says, I guess I have to call Kauai now and apologize.
Yeah.
What happened was that the wire in the fluorescent light, as it got warm, would stretch, and then it came down and hit on the cover.
She got
Put
the
on my
warming up
electrician
part,
hat
right?
and fixed the light. Okay, can we get this thing out of here? Since I have two people here. For anybody that's out there listening that works on Petrov uprights, that key slip is glued on. You're not going to be able to take it off, so you're going to have to regulate around it.
Okay, that's a good tip. We've taken off 1P and 5P key slips, and that's unpleasant.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's possible though. Sounds like Petrov.
Petrov is not
Not so much.
possible.
Is there a reason they do that?
Yeah, I can't honestly tell you that. I would imagine that it helps with the structure of the key bed. It's not going to move around as much.
Yeah.
All right. Lot of inconsistencies. There you go. Holy man. So these are renters.
Yes, they are.
Interesting. Okay.
Do you need those jukeboxes?
That's not going to help your key bed any. Okay, that's got plenty of attack. And after that, it's ugly. Just kind of feeling so I can tell what's been done. And we'll try. These have been lacquered.
Yes.
Jeez,
But
please.
just with the,
It's a good workout this morning.
just with the rolling method that you
Okay.
talked about a few minutes ago.
Hear the difference? So the attack was fine, but the roundness was gone.
Yeah.
So you release the shoulders just a little bit so it can escape. What happens is when the hammer hits the string and it's too hard, it has no flex, it distorts the sound. And that's what we're hearing. We're hearing distortion. By relaxing the shoulders a little bit, it allows the hammer to escape quicker and gives us a more full and round sound without losing any of the attack. But now it's got a little more attack than all of its neighbors. So you can just, sugarcoat that down just a little bit. You can get the action back out without breaking any hammers. That's the big part.
I know a guy that can fix it.
So I'm just going to barely go in there, just break that up just a little bit. What's funny is you can actually hear it breaking. You can hear the felt.
With the lacquer.
Poof. Again, patience. You get now. Globally, this sounds really pretty good, but it's real uneven, and so you're going to have to just go in and pick the note that you really
find
like,
the worst ones.
and then make the rest of it sound that way. I'm guessing almost this entire piano is going to need to be shoulder voice, maybe 1-2 stitches, maybe 3 on some really nasty dead ones, and a little bit of sugar coating to even it out. But all the basics are there. It actually sounds really pretty good. Okay, that's a distorted note. E. I have a tendency to get, while I'm trying to get the thing out and I'm thinking about something else, I forget what note I was looking at.
Yeah.
So just.
Steinways are going to be listening.
Of course they are. They always have to be difficult about something.
Something. Yeah.
Or everything.
We'll just give it just a very light.
So the distortion is caused, you said, by lack of flex.
Yep.
And so you did so you released the shoulders with 1 stitch at 11 and 1. And
Just
then
a little bit further
little
down.
bit, 11:30 and 1, or 10:30 and 1:30, and then you did 2 stitches in the crown to kind of.
See, now that livened it up too much. That really released it. So now we need to shut it up. So I shouldn't have been as ginger as I was with the. Wow. Wore out by the time we get it out. So now we're just going to take about maybe 3. Just knock off the attack a little bit.
Wow.
Now it's even. So yeah, let's just go through the whole piano like that. Generally in bass strings, you're always in the shoulders. And then you have to bring the attack back by rolling over the top with a really super thin juice. Some pianos need so little just to brighten them up on the attack, use the acetone by itself.
Oh.
And roll it over the top. So there's something about the stuff that's in natural felt that will kind of bind together,
Interesting.
and it will actually brighten it up some. So the steps are
It almost sounds
Iron.
counterintuitive, actually.
iron, so there's snowboard iron, acetone, super thin juice,
Like 10 to 1.
probably more like 75 to 100 to 1, super thin. So like 2 grams of the crystals to 4 ounces of acetone.
Hmm.
So it's thin. Shoulders, you go a little bit more, so about 4 grams to 4 ounces if you're doing some shoulder work. And that's really about all you ever need. If you're on a Steinway that's totally and completely dead, go ahead and put it in a needled thing and douse the lower shoulders a bit, because you're going to have to bring them up, especially Steinway hammers. If I get the chance to talk to the customer, I almost always will end up with Obel Naturals on a Steinway. I did that on my church piano. We have a long scale A, and when I was all done, I voiced 4 hammers. Those 4.
Really?
That was it.
Huh.
So the pastor, who is an incredible pianist, I asked him, I said, "Would you change anyone?" So
That's awesome.
yeah. And the way I get around that, is these are German Obel hammers made for Steinway. All truth. Because I custom make them for that Steinway. And Hamburg pianos use German Obel, not German Obel, but German hammers on the
On the Hamburg.
Hamburgs.
Yeah.
So if you want Steinway name on them, and don't want it to sound as good, we can put the Steinway hammers on.
I have actually sold this piano 3 times. And all 3 times they
What was that?
It was a
Backed
branding
off.
issue.
It was
because I used all Renner action hammers
Yep.
in the rebuild
Yep.
3 times.
3 times. Like delivery was scheduled, invoice. It's so sad.
Because we've used Renner.
And they loved it too. And then
See that? Remember we were talking about the bus?
Yeah.
You were thrown under a bus.
Yep. Oh, I know. I'm very well aware. Yeah. No. The 3rd time it happened, I got a call. I was at a tuning, and the delivery was scheduled for that day, and because it was the 3rd time, I knew why they were calling, and sure enough, they said, we just went to the Steinway dealer just to be sure. And what kind of action did you use? What kind of hammers? And I said, okay, I know where you're going. Wait a minute. I said, this was a better choice. I used Renner hammers and Renner. Oh yeah, no, they warned us against that, so we're going to have to cancel.
So
For some reason, the
Why
thing that they
does-
told them was self-serving.
Shocking, I know.
why does Steinway use Renner then?
Steinway Hamburg?
Yeah. That's what the question
That's
I would be
the
asking.
argument that I made,
Yeah.
but they were told by the authorities, at Dane's Music, that
and then it won't be insurable
So
after that
say
and all
normally
this.
If
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
to talk to the customer before a rebuild and explain to them what the differences are,
mhm.
and I says, do you want it to sound good or do you want it to say Steinway on it?
Yeah.
So if you just want it to say Steinway on it, we're done.
Well,
It says Steinway on
and
it.
what, ultimately, so we had this discussion. I think this third one was probably the most lively discussion. I think we went on for 45 minutes, and ultimately, and I made those same arguments, and ultimately, what they said was resale. That was there because they want to be able to market it for resale as all genuine Steinway, and they were like, yep, I agree with you that it's a superior product, and we love this piano, we fell in love with it, but we can't buy it because we're concerned about resale.
At which point I would say I'll send you the Steinway parts to keep with it. That way you can listen to it in its premier abilities.
And you can enjoy it, actually.
And so you still have all the Steinway parts.
Right.
And then when it comes time to resell it,
There you go. There's the Steinway.
there's the Steinway parts.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you'll have $1,000 worth of parts sitting in it. Well, more than that now.
No, it's for a full set. It's like $3,500.
So build that into it.
Full whippings, back checks, hammer shakes.
Yeah, build the piano so it's at its premier abilities. And if they want the Steinway parts, the Steinway parts are right here. When you're ready to sell it, put them on.
Well,
Just a thought.
Yeah, I have heard that line where they say, "No, if it's not that, it's not a Steinway."
Yeah.
it's
And
something
again,
better.
It's an image. Then it's not an instrument for them.
So the L that we're rebuilding back there, I'm still, kind of bitter about that, kind of
That's
smarting
what it
from
says.
my wounds. So
Yeah.
I'm putting all Steinway parts on the L, and I'm
Yeah.
guessing that it'll probably sell faster. We've had this piano for almost 2 years now, so I think the first one that bought it and backed out was within a month or two, but the last one was, I don't know, 8 months
Earlier
ago.
this spring, yeah.
Was it this spring?
Yeah, Clyburn, I rebuilt a long A, and Clyburn bought it out of the Washington Washington State store, and loves it. And that was Renner. And put all Renner parts in it.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal sounding piano.
Yeah, the customer. So I'm rebuilding an L also in the back, but it kind of came down to I showed them the differences, it came down to, if it was your piano, would you do Steinway parts or would you do Renner parts? And it was, I'm gonna do Renner parts. That's what I would rather work on.
Yeah,
I
and
prefer that.
I make it ridiculously higher price
They do.
for the Steinway part.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more work, to make them sound as good as they can sound.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I charge a right arm and left leg.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing an M right now for Miley Cyrus's Hollywood house. So it's got to have Steinway parts on it.
Of course it is.
Anyway, questions? Want us to do more?
Well, what do you guys think? We do have a 178 that was sent back and swapped out because it's, I actually like it, but it doesn't project enough. It was too warm. Actually, but Paul came in yesterday, and yesterday he was actually liking this one better.
He was liking it.
Yeah,
Nice. He liked it.
yeah. This is a different Paul.
I'm gathering that.
Yeah.
In here, so.
So,
You want to have a look at that?
Yeah, yeah. It's that 178 right there.
not interesting.
And we jumped around on a lot of different pianos, not really finishing anything
Yeah,
else.
we want to finish one.
Somebody's gonna have to finish them.
Yeah. Got a good start.
And I wish they'd do these in steel
Yeah, me too.
and then brass plate them.
Slightly shorter than usually. Was Mr. Hong too aggressive? Was Mr. Hong too aggressive?
Somebody was too aggressive. For an orchestral piano, this would be great. For a jazz pianist, he'd hate it. It is a bit lacking.
Hey, Ammon from St. George is watching. Say hi. Sing you for a while, Ammon. Got 10 people on this morning.
Yes, some super thin juice.
You know?
We can make some.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
lacquer and cotton.
I have some of the my stuff.
He's got some in his.
You give me just a couple minutes, I'll be right back.
Mhm.
All right. Oh,
Couple minutes.
going out to his. So is the break a voicing issue or is that a good construction issue? The bass break? Yeah, tenor. It sounded like a voicing issue to me. Yeah, right there. It's a huge difference. Yeah. Sounds like the bass just needs to be brightened up a bit. I think so.
It's always interesting to hear, especially from a veteran, but not only in terms of softness and harshness or bright, but there are other complexities in voicing of the attack and how it blooms and just different things that happen throughout the sound, and just needling ever so slightly will change that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's awesome.
Well, what I've noticed is that he's starting out by really listening to every piano, and he's just starting. Then once he's kind of has a survey of the land, then he just starts with one
And
hammer,
sees how it reacts.
sees how it reacts.
Yeah. Pretty neat.
And patience, like he was saying. I want to get in there and I want to get this thing voiced and move on to the next piano. But he's like, every time I've got to pull the action out and put it back in, it just feels like, just for one note.
Especially that one.
Yeah, especially that one. But he's just taking several minutes on each note, taking it out and putting it in.
Although on the C7, once he decided what he wanted to do, we went through that section really quick.
Yeah.
So you can do those kind of changes and still
Yeah.
work very fast.
I'll have to share this with Steve and let him know we did some voicing on it.
Here you can definitely hear how bright that is. And it's just kind of like
Yeah. No, I can hear it.
aggressive, whereas here it just has a real warmth to it. And he didn't touch the bass. Another question that I have for him is some of these, like the Henry F. Miller and the Bush and Lane right next to it.
It's not good to have
I'm not-
those two playing together.
What's that?
The Bush and Lane has such a big sound compared to.
Well, in the bass, it really has a big boom. But I'm wondering if he thinks that the issue is kind of just a piano issue, or if it's a voicing issue.
Which issue?
The Henry F. Miller.
Mhm.
It's just like so.
It-
So, Paul, something that I love about 100-year-old uprights when they're rebuilt is they can have such a big, powerful boom. And we have one over there that I'm wondering your thoughts if you think that it's a voicing issue, that it's just really subdued. It sounds like a piano half its size almost. I'm wondering if you think that it's a voicing issue or if it's just some weird design flaw. It's a Henry F. Miller, 1911 Henry F. Miller.
Sorry, we're kind of jerking all over the place.
I'm not letting you finish anything today. It's this brown one, right there.
What's that?
I noticed it last Saturday.
Well, the hammers are hitting the right spot. That's one.
You think?
Yeah, that's got a hammer hanging issue, exactly. Just up there.
Yeah, I've had that a lot of times. It's such a beautiful piano.
And actually, they liked the look of this one the best. Like, and that's usually what happens too.
I think I do too. I think that's
So pretty.
cosmetically, it's probably my favorite
That
piano.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Did you have the plate out of it?
What's that?
Did you pull the plate out of it?
No, we didn't.
I would be suspicious of downbearing.
Downbearing. Yeah.
I mean, you could brighten it up a little bit and make it project a little bit better, but it'd be more Yamaha-ish sounding when you were done.
Okay.
But you could get away with that. This up here, you just need to move the hammer a little bit. And then,
It's just not transferring.
yeah.
Okay.
I'd be suspicious of the downbearing on it. And the string scale you used, oh, this is original.
Yeah, strings are
Yeah.
original.
They are original.
Now I'm even more suspicious.
So how, short of taking off all the strings and resetting the plate height or recapping the bridge, how would you fix it?
Sell it.
That's my plan. That's my plan actually. So,
Yeah, that
okay.
would be my plan.
Good.
Yeah, I think that I'd fix that maybe.
So Paul, I have to tell you about a cheat that we did on a Steinway upright and get your thoughts. We'll have to turn off the camera though. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, okay. Oh.
I'm just kidding. I stand behind it. We rebuilt a what year was that Steinway upright? You remember?
Joe did?
Yeah. It's probably 1890, 1900, something like that. And it had significant like sustain issues. Played the note and it would just die instantly. So we were just experimenting. We put a bolt in between one of the back posts and a rib, and we kind of found the sweet spot. We just with a wrench in there, we just kind of kept adjusting it out and out to push the rib out to give it a little bit more down bearing. And like when we found the sweet spot, and then choked it and then went back off, so we found the right spot. It actually worked great. Gave us more down bearing, gave us more transfer. Of course, now the soundboard isn't free. It's not just touching around the perimeter anymore. And we timed the sustain because we were concerned about what that would do to sustain, and we timed it. The sustain, I think it was unaffected. It was like 15 seconds for G5 or something, and it stayed the same.
Probably because it was a solid point and not flexible. You see people doing stuff like that with wedges. It's not really solid, and it can move.
Okay.
But since you used a bolt, yeah, I could see that. You just kind of quartered off the the soundboard, so.
I suppose so. What would you think on, if it's a down bearing issue, like if the soundboard has lost its crown, just force it out so that there's more down bearing?
Well, that would do two things. Either it would either fix it, or you'd be able to tell for sure that that's the problem, and then you could decide what to do about it.
What to do, yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we'll experiment.
Yeah, why not?
And if it fixes it, we'll just leave the bolt there.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Can we go back to the 178?
Sure.
Okay. I like it. It's actually, if you bought it,
So probably gotta run to an appointment, but it's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh,
Okay.
hey, can I get a picture of all of you together before you leave, Jacob? Yeah, can you guys all get in a picture with Paul? Just so I can, before you leave, Jacob. Do you want to get in the middle, Paul, with Brigham? Matching shirt surrounding. Yay! Yay! I'm so excited. Okay. Okay. 1, 2. I'll take a few. 1, 2. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Bye, Jacob.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Paul.
You bet. This is B72 voicing crystals. They're different from the old key tops that we used to use because they're not brittle, they actually flex. Dale told me about these, Dale Irwin told me about these, and he gave me some to play with, and I've been using them ever since. They don't break down like lacquer over time. When you put them in there, it stays where you put it. It doesn't change with time as far as lacquer breaking down, because lacquer, when you thin it down as much as we have to thin it down, it breaks down pretty rapidly. For a period of time, I was using not lacquer, but was put out by Minwax. It was not polyester, but polyurethane based. And it lasted a little bit better than the lacquer, but then this outlasts them all. So, to give you an idea of just how thin we're talking about making this.
Oh, you can use a scale.
Yeah. I gotta open it. In 4 ounces of acetone for your thin stuff. One more. You're putting about that much crystals in it, in 4 ounces. If you're wondering what 4 ounces looks like, that's what 4 ounces looks like. So that's pretty thin. And then you double that for the thicker stuff. I get these on Amazon. They're like $12. You use it for a lot of things, like the weight of a hammer, so that you can match off hammers from piano to piano. So like if you're replacing hammers on a piano, you can weigh the old hammers to see just what kind of density they were. Especially on grand pianos, that becomes a problem because the newer hammers are so much more dense than old hammers. You have a weight problem, which is why I bore and taper and cove my own hammers So by doing that, I can bring the weight of the hammer down without messing with the felt. This material in acetone and the thinness that we put it on doesn't take very long before you have your answer. Whether or not you're going to like it or not. I don't like those notes at all. Those need to come down a little bit. Need an extension cord.
Did you grab that, Jake?
Rawhide wire. Get in there. They'll turn black after a while. Can I make a mess out here?
Of course you can.
Alright, let me grab an end. We're gonna put the keys in first. The action dance.
I have a plug over here on that column. It's probably the closest one.
You have shaping blocks, paddles.
Yeah.
So all this stuff I generally carry with me all the time.
As we can see, even on vacation.
Snowboard axe. No holes in it. And it gets really down to hot. This one does not get as hot as some of them. My friend at Walter Piano has one that gets a whole bunch hotter.
Does it matter?
Yes,
It does. You don't want it to, or you do?
I do.
You do?
I want to be able to get it hot. Okay, what I'm going to do here is relatively quick, global. I don't particularly want to have to re-regulate the piano when I'm done. I don't want to have to redo a lot of things. So, those strings are pretty flat across, so these should be pretty flat across. I am not opposed to gang filing even on the angles. So I'm just going to take these off real quick. Hmm.
in that spot. And the piano can go through. Use work on it.
Yeah.
Taking a pause from you're happy with it as long as it's gonna work?
I wouldn't mind doing some of this too.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, why don't you, since all these are open, why don't you do that today?
Might as well finish them. Yeah.
Some more experience on.
Okay. Instant application. That's the nice thing about having a thousand pianos to work on. Is early in my career, I would learn this stuff with guys like Paul, and then like the first chance that I'd have to work on it, actually put into practice what I learned, was like months later, and I'd have to pull up my notes and try to remember, you know, but the cool thing about having all these pianos is like instantly as Paul's talking, you know, I'm thinking like, oh, this piano could use that, and this piano could use that, and that's just voicing, you know, like I bet if we had a week with Paul, you know, we could probably, you know, deal with all sorts of issues.
Okay, I'm just gonna run down the angles here real quick.
Not over the crown.
Not yet. I will.
Why just the shoulders?
Because right now I'm just making those pretty.
Oh, I see.
So is that a pretty low heat?
I think that's pretty high.
Okay.
I gotta turn it away. I gotta turn it all the way.
So Jake just bought a soundboard or a snowboard iron. Jake's the one that just left. He just
Oh, for us? For
Yeah.
this? Cool. I was gonna do that if he didn't, so.
Yeah, 'tis the season.
and then those crystals. Where do you get those?
Dale Irwin. I'll leave you some here.
So is that a proprietary material, or do you know what it is?
I don't know what it is. Dale gets it from somebody. We also have a lubricant coming out pretty soon that is literally a space age material that we're working on. You know, ProTech is great, but it doesn't last. It goes away very quickly. This stuff won't go away ever. I'm just gonna come back.
So now you're doing the top.
Yep. Rest was pretty. This, I'm actually gonna brighten it up a little bit. Not much, just a little. And my idea here is I'm gonna start out from an equal start, meaning that everybody's the same. So you see the side of the hammers here? How ugly they are.
Mm-hmm. Does make them pretty, doesn't it? They look brand new.
They do look brand new.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Wow, what a difference.
Okay.
You're right, I already, makes a big difference. Just getting rid of those fuzzies.
Mm.
Now, let's hear what that did.
So, what does that do to tone?
You're about to find out.
Okay.
Theoretically, it should even it out, and it should brighten it up just slightly.
Okay.
Okay. Out and spin.
Actually, if you could you do picture. I'm gonna
That fixed the piano.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Is there anything you can do about the tenor break there? Seems like a pretty.
See, well, he did already fix most of that.
Yeah. It's mostly just like between those two.
What we're gonna do is what we were doing before. We're just gonna.
I think the last Wing and Sons I delivered was the one we craned into the balcony.
In
Orange.
Big
over by Will's Pit Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Huh?
I'm late.
Let's try and-
So it's Brigham. I know. I'm like, do you want to? You could just call him when you're running late.
Now what I'm doing here is
Oh,
I've
bye,
mellowed down the
Scott.
tenor hammer a little bit. Now I'm bringing up the bass hammer a little bit.
But not all the bass hammers, just
No,
the,
just the
just
break.
on that side of the break.
Yeah,
Why just that side of the break?
because the rest of it sounds really good. This little piggy. So we'll de-ping him a little bit. Just fine and dandy.
Deep ping it.
De-ping it.
Just with really tiny little stitches right across the
Right, I
ground.
don't want to lose any power. I just want to get rid of the ping. So that- See, it's imperceptible now.
Hmm.
So let's take it out, spin it around. We'll do what we did to the center section here. We're going to
Okay.
leave the bass section alone because he sounds wonderful.
Okay.
And it should be good. Okay.
Watch out for your iron.
I know, I was watching that.
So
It smells like it.
It does.
That would straighten my hair pretty fast.
Okay, best way of learning stuff is do it.
Yeah.
So, who would like to be a victim? A volunteer, sorry.
Yay!
Jake, you want to do it?
Do it, Jake.
So, Mr. Jake, what we're going to do, now I learned this from the designer of the Busendorfer Imperial. I spent a day with him doing voicing and finding out why Busendorfer is the way Busendorfer is. That was a fascinating day. So, hammers actually have a nap to them. There's a direction that they like to be filed. 99.9% grand pianos like to be filed from the inside out.
Oh, really?
So, we're just going to come
How
down
about
here.
uprights? Is there a general or
Yep,
no?
same thing.
Oh, just always, usually.
And we're
How
just
would you know if it wasn't?
it files really weird.
Oh, okay. You would know.
So we're just going to come over the top. We're getting rid of the grooves real quick. Quick being the operating word. And the reason we're doing a gang file is
I think
it's
that iron.
because these are flat, the strings are flat, so we want to keep these flat so that they hit all three strings. This is a quick way of doing that.
So you're actually coming over to the top.
Right over the top. You can see the line,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the filing line. Just follow your line over the top, and you'll see it go away. And if you're really anal, you can just keep right on going. I tend to be somewhat anal. And then when we're done with that, we're just going to go over it with this really fine stuff real quick. And just polish it up a little before we hit it with the iron. Okay? It's simple. Your weapon. Okay. Hold here.
Hold that.
Hit multiple strokes in each spot. So you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now turn a little bit. Just follow your line over the top now. Keep stroking all the time. Just follow it over. Keep it all nice smooth. Okay, one more time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start here and just nice even strokes, and then
Get
just,
it even.
and then just keep going over the top. And now you can start to see the line
There
going
we
over the
go.
top, and just follow it on over.
Follow it on.
Okay.
This is nice.
Don't press too hard. You don't have to press too hard. The sandpaper doesn't work. There you go.
Yeah, looking good.
Don't spend too much time on the very top. Just keep right over the top. You gotta watch your line. You're leaving your line behind you. There you go. Keep coming. Coming over the top now.
Nice.
Don't take big jumps, because you left your line behind. There you go. Now you got it. See the line here still? So let's just kind of work that down.
Gotcha.
There, you got it. You got it. And don't be afraid to come. Don't be afraid to let it just slap down. This edge right here will take care of that. We've already done what we want to do by that point. Come back and get your line here. Good. Alright. Then we're just going to kind of clean it up a little bit like a shoe. Like that. Clean it up a little bit. That gets rid of it. And when we do the iron, I'll get rid of all the rest of this little fuzzy stuff. It's better if you hold it with two hands. And just kind of like do that. Yeah, it covers more felt. A bigger
Let's go in
surface.
the direction of the nap with that sandpaper,
Oh.
not back and forth.
Not back and forth.
Oh.
Don't go that way. Go
Oh,
that way. Keep looking at it. All felts have nap, including and especially dampers. You have to learn which direction the nap is going. I don't know if you've ever seen an upright where the dampers are one, the blocks are like this, and one going like this, and the other one's going like that. That's because you put them on backwards. You put them all in the same direction, and that nap lays one direction. No matter what you do, it's going to look like this. Next.
You want to do McKinley?
Okay, so lift up all those top hammers.
Oh, wait, time out.
You want to do the iron first?
Yep.
Yeah, because they gotta look pretty.
That look pretty. It looks good, it sounds good.
That's right.
So now here, we're down,
You
we're
don't
down.
understand in Chinese, Paul?
No. Yeah, I should. Because these are straight, I don't have to go do the angles first. So grab them low and bring it over. Grab them low and then come back and okay.
Everyone's super on paper, so I wonder if we can the video recording.
All right. Well, thanks all the way. Check out. Still check out the website if you're interested. Obviously, next Wednesday.